My name's Clayton, and I'm an alcoholic. Um, Step five, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Um, I'm in a weird headspace today. We're less than an hour away from me going to the court and finalizing my divorce. And what a place to be, knowing that it's the right thing, and knowing the work I've put in has put me in a position to accept that. Um, Step five was it was easy to do for me after writing things down, after discovering the truth of myself, after admitting and accepting the truth of myself, admitting it to God, having found a belief in a higher power. Um, I did that as I was writing it. My belief in a higher power is generated through love, connection, and universal flow. So what is should be, and accepting that and residing within it. Uh, that happened as I wrote these things about myself to another human being. That was I put it off, and I don't really know why. I don't know what fear I continued to sit in that had me pause. I think it was maybe the shock of the full admittal to myself of what those character defects were that I had. Um, the realization of how much fear tied into my entire life. I wasn't I don't want to say I wasn't ready to admit that, but it shocked me. I think maybe a moment of shock was probably where I held up between 4 and 5 and sitting with another human being. But to stare in a mirror and talk about those defects to myself, um, that became easy in that time. It really it made the world seem brighter when I wasn't running in fear from my past and shying away from fear of my future anymore. I had found that kind of peace after I accepted these things. So, I had moments in dabbling in what serenity was, but admitting these things to myself really started churning that world of having serenity more frequently and beginning to become a persistent part of my existence. Admitting to God was, for me, the universe was there with me as I did these things. Part of my existence, I now speak in terms of, my father being there with his hand on my shoulder, uh, with me through it all. Who he was, the things I held against him for as long as I had, um, and the things I didn't see of him that I now look back and reflect on positively because I've removed the hard feelings of the negative. Uh, I've got the universe has flown from him into me, and his existence. Uh, I don't run away from what it was in my lifetime. I now accept that he was who he was, and a lot of those fears that I had generated from a lot of the way I thought about him. There were other things, but a lot of my fear generated from that. I sat with my sponsor and did my fifth step. Wonderful man, did The first time I did a 5th step, I did it I told my life story. I didn't talk about defects of character. I talked about all of the things I had done that I had embellished and told untruths about, my entire life, always to make myself look better in ways because this is who the world wants to see me as rather than this is who I am. The world can accept me as it is, which is where I try to find myself today. He when I that was my first sponsor I told my life story to. Um, his experience was different from mine in life and sobriety, so we we still great friends, but decided that the sponsorship piece of the program wasn't right for the 2 of us. And I found somebody that had experienced a lot of things that I was going through, and when I think of somebody that I wanted to emulate, those 2 men come to mind as I walked into AA. Happy, joyous, and free was what I was looking for, and my first sponsor was the epitome of it. That man is always today. He has one of the most happy personalities I've come across of just God has worked a miracle for him, and it's amazing to watch him, uh, where he is and how beautifully he shares his story. My second sponsor, when I think of serenity and calm, this man was when I decided that serenity is what I wanted, when I decided that being able to exist in the world no matter what happened and accept what it was, this man was what stood out to me as I wanted what he had. Both of these men played beautiful pieces in my journey, and uh, I'll be forever grateful for that. Sitting and talking about all of these defects of characters I had found within myself, sharing with another human being. Um, Something I've learned is that vulnerability was something I'd never done in my life. Exposing myself to somebody else, the inner workings of my soul, my mind, I'd never done that to that kind of level with another human being. I would dance around ideas and gauge the way another person thought before I ever opened up about anything, which often led me to think that they're going to think I'm a terrible, disgusting human being if I talk about these things with them. Um, and I didn't get that from either of these men. They were wonderful. Saying it out loud, exposing my soul, and being vulnerable opened up a new world for me. I those it started to be the moments where I really began connecting to my higher power and letting go. The fears shed of the past and the future changed everything. I used to never be able to fall asleep without alcohol and melatonin, and I don't need things to fall asleep anymore. My mind doesn't race in all of the fears that I worked to stop chemically. I simply do things all day and go to bed. That was nothing I imagined I'd ever be able to do again. Peace and serenity brought a new world to me, and I found those through divorce hearing reminder just popped up. Man, I found serenity through that fifth step. Those things aren't removed from me. My life and my experience is still there in its whole entirety. Those thoughts, feelings, and emotions I have around them make me. They're part of my existence. and I accept them as that. I don't run from them, I don't hide from them, I accept them. And if I want to be a different person, if I want to have a personality change to not continue to harm people the way I had, I just have to make the right decisions. I have a roadmap of what I don't want to do to another person. The way I treated people, the way I secluded myself from connections or severed connections because of whatever reason I had in my own head. I don't want to live that way anymore. And that decision is mine. I ask for guidance on things to do, but when it comes to doing the right thing, I know what the right thing is. I have to decide to do it. Um, and the fifth step set me free of those fears. And now I just have to worry about doing the right thing. And it's easy to do when you're not scared of everything else. The right thing for me, the right thing for my children, the right thing for their mother is sometimes just a matter of conversation. And that's part of life is living in a moment, sharing in empathy and care and moving forward, making the best decisions possible. I can do that in a way today that I've never been able to do because I've shared the ugliest pieces of me with somebody else. The things I hated myself for, the things I would run from and hide and bury behind alcohol. I'm not scared of them today. They exist. I accept them. I do not have to be that way anymore. It comes down to making the right choice and believing in a higher power guiding me to wherever it is I'm supposed to be. Our journeys are a lifetime. Where we are today is not going to be where we are 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 30 years from now. It is a constant evolution of change. And what path we take, it ultimately is up to us. If we do the things that are within our control and focus on what we can control and accept the world as it is around us, I've found that life is easy to live despite hardships, despite losing relatives. It The world's a beautiful place. Everything is an opportunity to learn. It's not always the easiest thing to do in any moment, but if I can focus there and grow rather than run in fear, then I can stay on this path and continue to try and be the best father I can be for my kids and the best version of myself for me. And being that for myself is really, AA and the program, that's what it's given me is the ability to do that because I didn't have it within me. It wasn't something I could willpower into my life. I was never going to survive that way. That proved itself to me in the course of how I was, how I acted, and the things I did. All right, we get ready for court and do the next right thing. Thanks for listening.